Fort Worth, Texas, September 1971. A Friday evening that begins the way Friday evenings begin in North Texas at the very edge of autumn, which is with the specific quality of heat that no longer dominates the day completely but refuses to surrender it entirely. The sun low above the western horizon now. Long shadows stretching across the stockyards with the heavy patience of late afternoon. Dust suspended in the air with nowhere particular to go. The smell of leather and diesel fuel and horse sweat carrying through the streets in slow, invisible currents. The Cowtown Coliseum sits beneath that heat with the tired confidence of a building that has spent decades watching men try to prove things about themselves in public. Bull riders, boxers, wrestlers, oilfield strongmen, and the specific category of Texas men who believe physical courage is not merely useful but sacred. Inside the arena, folding chairs scrape against concrete. Vendors move through the aisles with paper cups of beer balanced in both hands. Country music hums softly through old speakers mounted high near the rafters. The crowd arriving slowly. Ranchers in pressed denim, rodeo families, men with sunburned necks and thick wrists, teenagers trying to imitate the posture of their fathers. And near the center of it all, beneath the hanging lights and drifting dust, stands a man named Wade Braddock, 32 years old, 6'3", 230 pounds, three-time Texas rodeo champion, a body built not in gyms but outdoors. The specific muscular density produced by years of lifting saddles and wrestling livestock and riding animals large enough to kill careless men. His shoulders broad even beneath denim. Hands carrying old fractures that healed without medical attention because rodeo culture in Texas in 1971 does not encourage men to stop working, simply because bones have objected. He is wearing a cream-colored cowboy hat and a faded blue shirt rolled at the forearms. A silver belt buckled the size of a small plate catches the overhead light every time he turns. And people notice him, not because he demands attention, but because some men enter rooms with reputations that arrive several seconds before they do. The younger cowboys orbit him casually, laughing too hard at his jokes, watching his reactions before offering their own. The specific social gravity created by competence, observed repeatedly over many years. Wade Braddock has spent most of his adult life inside arenas, and arenas have rewarded him. He has broken ribs in Oklahoma, dislocated a shoulder in Amarillo, been stepped on by a bull outside Lubbock badly enough that the doctors told him he should probably stop riding permanently. He rode again 3 months later, because the particular mythology of masculine toughness in Texas during the early 1970s leaves very little room for men who remain down once they have stood up before, and Wade Braddock embodies that mythology almost perfectly. Not cruel, not arrogant in the theatrical sense, simply certain. The certainty of someone whose body has solved most of the problems life has placed in front of it. The certainty of a man who has spent years watching other men hesitate around violence while he moved toward it automatically. Near the back of the Coliseum floor, several younger riders are discussing a recent martial arts demonstration that took place in Dallas the previous week. Something involving a Chinese fighter breaking wooden boards with punches, fast hands, 1-inch strikes. Demonstrations that sound exaggerated once retold inside Texas rodeo circles. One of the younger men imitates karate noises badly. The others laugh. Wade Braddock listens with half attention while lighting a cigarette. Then he says the sentence that several people in the building will later remember differently but never forget entirely. Kung Fu don't work on real cowboys. He says it casually, not loudly, not as a performance for the room. The way men say things they have believed for so long, they no longer recognize them as opinions. The group around him laughs again, more comfortably this time because Wade has supplied the conclusion everyone expected him to supply. And the conversation should have ended there. Most conversations do. But 20 feet away near the arena entrance stands a lean Chinese man in dark trousers and a black buttoned shirt, listening quietly while a local promoter speaks to him about seating arrangements. Bruce Lee, 30 years old, already known in certain circles, not yet fully known everywhere else. The specific stage of fame where some people recognize him instantly while others see only a thin Asian man with unusually calm eyes. He has come to Fort Worth because a friend persuaded him to visit a regional martial arts exhibition scheduled for the following afternoon. A small event, demonstrations mostly. Bruce Lee dislikes wasting time, but he dislikes refusing opportunities to observe people even more, and Texas interests him. The psychology of it, the posture of American masculinity in places where physical intimidations is treated almost as a regional language. Bruce Lee turns slightly when he hears the sentence about kung fu, not dramatically, simply enough to register the voice. His expression does not change. This is important, because people who later described Bruce Lee inaccurately often described him as visibly intimidating or emotionally aggressive. But nearly everyone who spent meaningful time around him says the same thing eventually. The first thing you noticed was not danger. It was attention. The complete quality of it. The sense that he was observing everything around him with unusual precision, while revealing almost nothing unnecessary about himself in return. The promoter continues speaking. Bruce Lee listens politely, but his eyes move once toward Wade Braddock across the arena floor. Wade notices this, and because human beings are ancient creatures beneath modern clothing, because male pride notices observation instinctively, even across crowded rooms, he looks back immediately. Their eyes meet for perhaps 1 second, no more. Bruce Lee nods once with simple acknowledgement and returns his attention to the promoter. And something about this irritates Wade Braddock in a way he cannot fully explain. Not because the gesture was disrespectful, because it was not. It was too calm to be disrespectful. The absence of submission without the presence of challenge, a thing many physically dominant men find strangely difficult to categorize. The evening continues. More people arrive. The arena fills with the layered sounds of Texas social life in 1971. Boots striking concrete, belt buckles tapping metal railings, cigarette lighters snapping open, low male laughter moving in waves through the building. Bruce Lee takes a seat alone near the lower rows beside the arena fence, still, watching. The specific stillness that people around him eventually begin noticing without understanding why they are noticing it. Wade Braddock remains near the center aisle, speaking with riders and event staff. Yet every few minutes his attention returns toward the lean, silent figure near the arena. Part of this is curiosity. Part of it is irritation. And part of it is the specific instinctive discomfort certain men experience when confidence appears without visible effort. Because Wade understands strength. He understands aggression. He understands dominant personalities. But Bruce Lee does not present himself in any recognizable version of those categories. There is no performance in him, no visible attempt to establish rank, no social maneuvering, just a strange, complete self-possession that seems entirely independent of the environment around him. And eventually, Wade walks over, not angrily, not even intentionally confrontational at first, simply propelled by the ancient masculine impulse that causes one man to test another when something about the second man refuses easy classification. The people nearby notice immediately, because crowds always notice converging energies before words are exchanged. Wade stops beside the railing where Bruce Lee is seated. Up close, the size difference becomes fully visible. Wade towering above him in denim and leather and physical mass. Bruce Lee smaller by nearly 80 pounds, lean almost to the point of appearing fragile beneath the arena lighting. Wade rests one arm casually on the fence rail. "You that movie fighter everybody talks about?" Bruce Lee looks up. Yes. The answer arrives without hesitation or performance. Wade nods slowly, studies him. The crowd noise around them continues normally, but a small circle of nearby attention has already begun forming. Conversations lowering slightly in volume, people pretending not to watch while watching completely. Wade smiles faintly. Not hostile. The smile of a man amused by a possibility he does not take seriously. "You really think all that kung fu stuff works in a real fight?" Bruce Lee considers the question for one moment, not because he needs time to answer, because he treats questions seriously even when the person asking them may not. Then he says quietly, "If applied correctly." Wade laughs softly through his nose, shakes his head. The specific disbelief of a man whose entire life has trained him to trust size and toughness above abstraction. You ever been hit by a bull rider before? Bruce Lee says nothing immediately, only looks at him with calm, direct attention. And for reasons Wade cannot entirely articulate later, the absence of immediate response feels less comfortable than an argument would have. A few more people nearby have stopped moving now. One older rancher near the aisle folds his arms slowly and watches with narrowed eyes. The atmosphere changes in increments so small no individual person notices the exact moment tension fully arrives. But it arrives. Wade straightens slightly. You know what I think? Bruce Lee waits. I think all that fast hand stuff works fine till somebody real grabs hold of you. He says it gently enough to remain technically friendly. But beneath the friendliness lives something older. A public test. The kind men have performed on each other since before language became sophisticated enough to disguise it. Bruce Lee stands. Not suddenly, not theatrically. Simply rising from the folding chair with the same quiet economy that defines nearly every movement he makes. And now the size difference feels even larger standing face to face beneath the arena lights. Wade Braddock built like a Texas myth. Bruce Lee narrow as a blade. The nearby conversations have almost entirely stopped. Bruce Lee looks at Wade calmly. Then he asks, "How long do you think you would need?" Wade blinks once. "Need for what?" Bruce Lee says. "To grab hold of me." The sentence lands softly, which is part of why it lands so hard. Wade smiles again, but there is slightly less ease inside it now. Around them, perhaps 30 people are openly watching. The old rancher near the aisle no longer pretends otherwise. A bartender halfway across the floor has paused while drying a glass. Bruce Lee waits patiently. Wade says, "Hell, son, probably about 2 seconds." Bruce Lee nods once. Then says the thing that later survives in half-remembered retellings all across Texas rodeo circles. "You can try." For one moment, nobody moves. Not because the sentence is loud. It is not. But because there are certain sentences that change a room not by volume but by removing every possible misunderstanding from it. Wade Braddock looks at Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee looks back. And the men standing nearby understand at once that the conversation has crossed the invisible border between talk and consequence. Wade laughs once. Short, dry. A laugh meant to reestablish the original shape of the situation, because only a minute earlier he was the large man teasing the smaller man. Only a minute earlier, the room understood the categories clearly. Cowboy and kung fu man. Texas toughness and movie speed. Real strength and foreign technique. But now Bruce Lee has stood up, and he has not argued, and he has not defended himself, and he has not attempted to persuade anyone of anything. He has simply opened a door, and Wade Braddock is standing in front of it with 30 people watching. The promoter, who has been speaking to someone near the entrance, turns when he senses the sudden quiet. He looks toward the arena fence and sees Wade standing over Bruce Lee, sees Bruce Lee standing calmly beneath him, and his face changes with the specific expression of a man who understands that a small evening has begun turning into a story. He starts walking toward them, slowly at first, not wanting to alarm anyone, because men like Wade Braddock do not respond well to being managed in public. Wade removes the cigarette from his mouth and drops it onto the concrete floor. He crushes it beneath one boot with unnecessary care. Then he says, "You serious?" Bruce Lee's answer is immediate. Yes, not challenging. Not dramatic, just the simplicity of it bothers Wade more than bravado would have, because bravado gives a man something to push against. Calm gives him nothing. By now the circle has widened. Maybe 50 people. Maybe more. The number will grow in the telling, as numbers always do when memory has been touched by humiliation and awe. But in that moment, what matters is not the exact count. What matters is the quality of the attention. The silence sharpening around two men in the middle of an old Texas arena. The dust moving slowly through the lights. The smell of livestock still living in the wooden boards. The ordinary Friday evening bending, almost imperceptibly, toward myth. Wade gestures toward the open space beside the fence. "You want to do this here?" Bruce Lee glances once at the floor. Concrete near the aisle. Packed dirt beyond the rail. He says, "Here is fine." The promoter arrives then. He says Bruce's name quietly. Not as a warning exactly, more like a request that reason return to the room before something irreversible happens inside it. Bruce Lee turns his head slightly. "I will not hurt him." The sentence is spoken softly enough that only the closest people hear it, but Wade hears it. And what was irritation a moment earlier becomes pride touched by insult, because there are many things a rodeo champion can tolerate in front of other men: jokes, challenges, even disrespect if it comes in a language he understands. But being reassured that he will not be hurt by a man half his size is not one of them. Wade steps into the open space and rolls his shoulders once, not because he needs to, because bodies with long habits perform their rituals before impact. He removes his hat and hands it to a younger rider standing nearby. The rider takes it carefully, as though accepting a ceremonial object. Bruce Lee does not remove anything, does not stretch, does not bounce on his feet, does not shake his hands loose. He only steps forward and stands at a distance, close enough to make the situation real. Arms relaxed, weight neither forward nor backward. Eyes open and calm. The specific posture of a man waiting to begin, but already inside the beginning. Wade studies him, and for the first time that evening, something small moves behind his expression. Not fear, not yet, but calculation. Because Wade has fought before, not in rings with rules, but in parking lots, fairgrounds, barns, bars. He knows how men look before violence. Their shoulders rise. Their eyes harden. Their breathing changes. Their hands reveal the future too early. Bruce Lee reveals nothing. That absence is information. Wade's body understands it before his pride does. He lowers his center slightly, hands open, a grappler's intention. Not trained in any formal school perhaps, but trained by life. By clinches against bulls, by wrestling steers, by pulling bodies larger than himself into directions they did not want to go. Wade is not pretending. He is not an actor. He is not a fool. He is dangerous. That must be understood. Because what happens next has no meaning unless the man facing Bruce Lee is genuinely dangerous. Wade Braddock is a man who has controlled violent animals with his hands. He has been thrown into fences and stood up. He has been hit by men who worked oil rigs and laughed afterward. He carries inside his body the complete confidence of a man who has discovered, repeatedly, that pain is not enough to stop him. And the crowd knows this. That is why some of them still believe he may win. Not easily, not cleanly, but by getting hold of Bruce, by smothering the speed, by making the fight ugly and close and heavy. The way strong men have always defeated smaller, beautiful fighters in the imagination of strong men. Wade shifts his right foot. Bruce Lee does not move. The old rancher near the aisle whispers something nobody answers. The promoter stops trying to intervene. Because the moment has already gone beyond intervention. It has become instruction. Wade says, "Just so we're clear, I touch you, this is over." Bruce Lee nods once. "Then touch me." The silence after that sentence is complete. Even the men who had laughed earlier are no longer laughing. Wade steps forward, not rushing. He is too experienced for that. He takes one careful step, then another, measuring distance with a surprising patience that makes several people watching reconsider him. His left hand rises first. Not to strike, to distract, to occupy Bruce's eyes. His right arm stays lower, ready to shoot forward and wrap around the body. It is a practical approach, simple, strong, a real man's plan for a real physical problem. And for 1 second it appears to be working. Because Bruce Lee remains still, too still. So still that Wade believes he has found the doorway. He commits, the right hand comes forward. Large fingers opening toward Bruce Lee's upper arm with the specific confidence of a hand that has grabbed rope, leather, horn, flesh, and never been denied by anything smaller than itself. Then Bruce Lee moves, not backward. That is what the crowd expects. Not sideways in the obvious way. That is what Wade expects. He moves into the space just outside the grabbing line with a displacement so small it seems less like movement than correction. His left foot adjusts. His torso changes angle. His right hand rises, and Wade's hand closes on air, not because Bruce has fled, because Bruce has removed only the part of himself that was available to be taken. At the same instant, Bruce touch Wade's wrist, not grab, touch. A brief contact at the joint line, placed with such exact timing that Wade's forward momentum changes direction before his mind understands that anything has happened. His shoulder opens. His balance lifts. A large man's structure, arranged over decades by strength and habit, is interrupted at the smallest possible point. And then Bruce strikes. Once. A short right hand into the solar plexus. No wind-up. No theatrical sound. No visible anger. A compact delivery of force traveling maybe 6 inches and arriving with the complete authority of a lifetime spent studying how the human body fails. Wade's breath leaves him. Not dramatically at first. It leaves like something stolen. His mouth opens. His eyes change. The body that has survived bulls and boots and broken boards of Texas hardship receives a piece of information it has no immediate answer for. Then Bruce Lee's left hand touches the side of Wade's neck. Again, not a blow in the way the crowd understands. Blows. A placement. A precise interruption. A message delivered to the nervous system in a language older than pride. Wade's knees soften. His boots scrape once on the concrete. For half a second, he remains standing by habit alone. And in that half-second, the entire room witnesses the collapse of a belief. Not the collapse of a man. That comes after. The belief collapses first. The belief that size explains everything. The belief that toughness is the final answer. The belief that a man who has never been broken cannot be moved by something he does not understand. Then Wade Braddock drops. Not flat, not unconscious, but down to one knee, one hand catching the floor, his hatless head bowed, his great shoulders rising and falling as he tries to pull air back into a body that has suddenly become unfamiliar to him. 9 seconds have passed. Maybe less. But 9 is the number people will use later, because stories need numbers, and because 9 seconds is just long enough to feel impossible without sounding completely invented. For several moments, nobody speaks. The silence is not confusion. It is recognition arriving slowly. Bruce Lee stands exactly where the movement left him, his hands relaxed, his breathing unchanged, his face carrying no triumph, no cruelty, no visible satisfaction. Only completion. Wade Braddock remains on one knee with one hand on the concrete, drawing air back into himself in short, heavy pulls. The crowd watches him with the painful tenderness people feel when a strong man has been defeated without being dishonored. Because everyone understands something now. Wade had not been exposed as weak. He had been introduced to a level of precision that made strength irrelevant for 9 seconds. And that is a different kind of humiliation. The younger rider holding Wade's hat takes one step forward, then stops. He does not know whether helping would be kindness or insult. Bruce Lee looks down at Wade. Not coldly, not proudly. Simply waiting until the man can breathe. When Wade finally lifts his head, his face is red and wet with effort. His eyes are different now, not broken, not frightened, but newly awake in the specific way men become awake when reality has corrected them in public. Bruce Lee says quietly, "You are very strong." The sentence does something to the room. Because it is not mockery, it is not consolation. It is true, and because it is true, Wade can receive it. He nods once, still breathing hard. Then he pushes himself slowly to his feet. It takes longer than he wants it to take, and everyone notices, and nobody laughs. The young rider hands him back his hat. Wade takes it but does not put it on immediately. He looks at Bruce Lee for a long moment. The old arena lights hum above them. Dust continues moving through the air. Somewhere outside, a truck starts and rolls away from the building, as if nothing inside the world has shifted. Wade says, "I guess it works. There is no joke in it now. Only honesty." Bruce Lee nods once. "It can." Then he steps back, not leaving dramatically, not turning the moment into theater, just ending it because there is nothing more required. The crowd begins to breathe again. Conversations return slowly, unevenly, in pieces. Men who had been certain minutes earlier now speak more carefully. The younger riders look at Bruce Lee with a different kind of attention than curiosity. Wade Braddock stands alone for a moment near the fence, hat in hand, staring at the exact place where his fingers closed around empty air. That is the detail he will remember. Not the strike, not the knee touching concrete, the empty air, because that was where the lesson began. The place where certainty reached forward and found nothing. Years later, people would argue about the story. Some would say it happened in Fort Worth. Others would move it to Dallas or Houston. Some would insist Wade was larger. Others would say Bruce finished him faster. The legend would change the way. Legends always change when men repeat them in barrooms and gyms and back rooms where pride still needs old stories to explain new truths. But beneath every version remained the same quiet center. A big Texas rodeo champion said kung fu would not work on a real cowboy. Bruce Lee did not argue. He let reality answer, and the answer took 9 seconds.